Welcome to our house. This is the Screenplay Podcast. I'm your host, Evan Grenis, and with me, as always, PGA Tour player Andrew Novak.
Hey, what's up? How's it going? Hope everyone got through their first week of fantasy football playoffs. We are getting close to the end of the season. MVP may already be locked up, but playoff spots are not.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Screenplay_podcast. New episodes every Wednesday, 8 a.m., wherever you listen to podcasts. We have also partnered with Wager Games. They are giving our listeners a $100 deposit match on the Sleeper app. Head over to our Instagram page, click the link, promo code, get your $100 deposit match. I'm looking at it right now. I like the Bo Nix more than 18 and a half rush yards on Thursday night. All right, a lot of blowouts this week. If you started Cup on Thursday Night Football and got a goose egg, you're probably pretty pissed. That's tough. Panthers show why they haven't been favored in 2 years. Josh Allen basically locks up MVP. Nick Sirianni may be the first coach to win a Super Bowl and get fired. We're going to get into all of it. Monday Night Football. We got two games. I'm going to be honest. I only watched one of these games last night. I went back, watched the replay for the Falcons, but I mean, other than the people actually at the stadium for that Falcons game, who was watching that?
My guess is only people that it was relevant towards the playoffs, but like hopefully you didn't have many players on either team because that probably was not going well for you.
That's a type of thank God for gambling type of game. Like if there's no money
Yeah.
or fantasy implications on this game, literally no one's going to be watching.
I think this is like one of the first weeks where I was like, man, I'm kind of glad they got two Monday night games because if that was the Monday night game we were stuck with, oof.
I know. All right, so let's get to the game we were watching. Vikings defeat the Bears 30-12. The Bears games are all starting to look the same. Terrible first quarter, terrible first half, and then Caleb starts letting it go in the second half. They attempt to make a small comeback, and it almost never really works out. I didn't say it on the podcast. I made this bet. What was it, Sunday or so? I don't know. I made it this weekend. I put my largest bet of the year on Vikings covering the first quarter spread. It was -2.5. That hit. I mean, the Bears game trends, they're all going the same way. No points in the first half, the last three games.
Yeah, you sent that to me, and I kind of gave you the go ahead on that. That looked really nice. Obviously, Minnesota jumped off to a pretty good start in this game too. Um, Caleb again, it's like you look at box score, no turnovers. He didn't get sacked as much, but still the offense just is not working.
At this point in the season, I mean, the Bears are out of it. I feel like Caleb is just mostly interested on not throwing picks. He's like, I'm just going to get the record for the most rookie attempts without a pick and call it a year and move on. I mean, what else?
Yeah,
What else is he really?
he, I've seen like a lot of stuff posted about how he looks defeated out there, and he really does just kind of look like lost. I don't want to say disinterested, but because I don't want to speculate on that, but it's not working, and you can tell he knows it's not working.
Yeah, this was exactly what they were afraid of in the offseason. Losing coaches, having a terrible offense. I honestly think until the Bears, I mean, I know that this game wasn't necessarily a part of it, but I feel like until the Bears build an indoor stadium, they will never have a 4,000-yard quarterback thrower ever, even with Caleb
Yeah,
Williams there. What's your thought on that? Caleb
I
Williams may be
I
the reason that
so
Chicago builds an indoor stadium.
it's so funny. I thought the same thing when like Josh Allen was starting to get like not his first year he struggled, but his second year he was starting to like do some things. But I'm like, man, this Bills like franchise is not serious until they build like a dome and
Well, they are
make
building a
it
new
and
stadium that will be done in
right,
2026.
right. But also like the
That is
Bills like
outdoors. Yeah.
playing in bad weather is actually has been a benefit to having Josh Allen because he's like one of the few quarterbacks that can actually handle it. So that actually
Right.
kind of backfired. Um, I do agree though. Like I don't know that this game was in a dome and
I
they do
know.
get to
I was going
play.
to say it doesn't have to do necessarily with this one, but
Yeah,
just in
like
general.
they do get two divisional opponents that have domes. But yeah, no, for sure. Like it's the weather and the situations there. It's like seems like they went out and got wide receivers and they have a decent tight end. They have a good receiving running back, and it's still like he still can't put up huge numbers. It's just it seems to be a trend with this franchise.
Yeah. All right. So the Vikings get the win. The Lions take a loss. You think the Vikings can snatch this one seed, or is that just too far out of the question for them?
Yeah, I that Lions Vikings game at the end of the year that might end up being the game of the year in the regular season. We got to wait all the way till week 18 for it. Um, I think 2 weeks ago, if you asked me, I would say no chance. The Lions injuries have stacked up so bad. Uh, I just don't know like how reasonable it is to like expect them to just continue to roll.
Yeah, the Lions are
Um,
playing at the Bears, at the 49ers, and then finish with the Vikings. And the Vikings are playing at Seahawks, Packers, and then at Lions. Honestly, both those schedules, not the easiest.
yeah,
Can't forget about the Eagles, though. Eagles at Commanders and then finish with Cowboys, Giants. I mean, they go 3-0.
pretty
They
doable.
got a shot at it too. I mean, those last
Yeah,
two games for the Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, like you said, they should be actively trying to lose those games. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one seed. Second game on Monday Night Football. I don't really know what's up with Kirk. He may have robbed Arthur Blank and the Atlanta Falcons. He may be broken. The Raiders actually had a chance to win this game, despite having Desmond Ritter at quarterback and really no team. What's your thoughts on Kirk? Did he rob the Falcons? Did his agent just make one of the greatest deals ever? What is he? Earlier in the year, Kirk looked good, and then these last 5 game stretch, one
yeah,
touchdown, 9 interceptions. I mean, that's just absolutely fallen off the earth.
yeah. He did finally throw a touchdown, which was good for
Wide
him.
open though, wide open to London. There was no defender
The,
within 4 or 5 yards
little
of that.
sluggo. Oh, they
Yeah,
bit bad on that. But yeah, I mean, Kirk obviously he's looked terrible. It's not even like his coaches are admitting it. It's like he's got to play better. Like he's been awful. They essentially went to, I think we talked about last week how I was like they could literally put Penix in there and just lean on the run game and just let it go and see what they have. They essentially have gone to that. I mean, they were running the ball on essentially 2/3 of their plays in this game and just leaning on the run game. And they have the running backs to do it. I think the offensive line is pretty decent there. I would not be surprised to see them go a little bit more that way. Obviously, that's kind of where they were last year, although they had Desmond Ritter at quarterback. Ideally, if you're paying Kirk Cousins and going out and getting him, you're not having to basically resort to that. But I think that's, coming off an Achilles injury, I think they're expecting him to get to full health and be the Kirk Cousins we've seen, and so far that's just not looking like the case.
yeah. Other than the check that Arthur Blank had to write, I don't think Kirk would be on the field. I mean, he would be pretty pissed if he signed Kirk for $180 million and it lasted what 13 games.
Like that's the thing is like people always talk about like, oh, teams will always play the guy they pay more, or they'll always play the guy that they drafted earlier. Now you have the guy that you paid more and the guy that you drafted earlier. How do you decide between the two?
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough decision. Let's move on to the next one. Sunday Night Football. Packers defeat the Seahawks 30-13. The Packers head into Seattle. They say, what 12th man? They absolutely control this game. They show why they are a top dog in the NFC. Geno Smith gets a knee injury in the third quarter, questionable next week. I'm kind of starting to think Geno Smith is the problem here. Like he's an okay quarterback. He's playing on a 3-year, $75 million deal. 2026 is when he'll be a free agent. Honestly, I think like Seattle can win games, but like I can't take them seriously for any sort of like contender until Geno is gone. I feel like he is just like the ultimate bridge quarterback. And yeah, can he win 7, 8, 9 games? Absolutely, but I have no faith in the Seattle team moving forward with Geno playing quarterback there.
Gino may be a bit of a bridge, but honestly, this game almost made me realize how good Gino is. Uh, because obviously they were struggling. They were going to lose this game. Green Bay is a very, very good team, and Green Bay was playing a great game. Seattle was having some tackling issues on defense, and they were struggling to stop them, struggling to get the ball back. How bad Seattle looked when Gino went out of this game was truly impressive. Like, yeah, unbelievable how bad that offense was. Like, usually when you're down 20 points in the fourth quarter, 20 plus points, it starts getting easier on offense. They start playing some prevent. You can still move the ball. They couldn't do anything with Sam Howell playing quarterback. Not a thing. And Sam Howell, this is a quarterback that threw for like 4,000 yards last year with Washington. He was putting up some numbers at least. Could not do anything. So maybe a little bit of respect earned for Geno in this game just based on the fact of how bad they looked without him. Um, I don't know if that's a perfect way of judging someone, but I think Geno has been a really solid quarterback for them. I think Geno's the kind of quarterback where if you have a team good enough around them, uh, you can actually do some things with him. He will have the occasional "what was that," but he distributes it well. He throws a nice ball. I would put him somewhat in a Baker Mayfield-ish category, where if you have a good defense around him, you have weapons around him, he can make them look good.
I don't know. I think he makes decisions a little slow, and I don't like him in the red zone. I think he is just the most average quarterback in the league. Like I said, can you win games with him? Yeah, but I can't take them seriously as a playoff contender. Let's talk about the Packers for a second. Great team, playing awesome. Love his last 4 games, 7 touchdowns, no picks. Josh Jacobs is absolutely killing it. If you have him in fantasy, you are loving it right now. 7 of his last 8 games has 20 points or more. He has 11 touchdowns in his last 8 games. Just absolute fantasy cheat code at the moment. Right now, as it stands, the Packers would be going to Tampa Bay and playing the Buccaneers in the playoffs. I mean, we think about Green Bay and such a good team. Like that's a tough place to go right now at this point. I wouldn't want to play Baker in Tampa in the playoffs.
Yeah. So wait, why would the Packers be going to Tampa? Is Tampa
Because
leading the NFC South right now?
they are. So they are the Tampa's 8-6. They will get a home game with the win of their division.
Oh, because Tampa's the 3 ahead of the NFC West.
Hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's just
Um,
crazy to think like
yeah.
like Green Bay, such a good team, like they'll get a home playoff. It's like no, like they're gonna be traveling to
I mean, they have no chance of with the Vikings and Lions in their
they're gonna
division, they have
either
no
be
chance. They're going to
playing
be going on the road.
they're gonna be
I
playing
was
at Bucks or at Lions at like
yeah.
there's a very real chance that the Green Bay Packers just have nothing to show for this year. Uh
We
with
might
a
we might see Packers at Rams or something like could be
that NFC is wild. If you're not taking your
yeah.
division, you're getting a tough road game. All right. Speaking of the Rams, Thursday night football, Rams defeat the 49ers 12-6. We had some really bad weather for the Thursday night game here. Wind, rain, no touchdowns. The better quarterback, better coach combo, who were getting points, by the way, McVay and Stafford, they came out on top. I'm starting to see a trend with Purdy, bad weather, bad conditions, pieces missing. Purdy just is not that
Yeah.
great. He's just a dude. Starting to really become a trend for him, actually. Debo Samuel been super noisy. Had a lot of drops this week. One really bad one. That's some karma for him right there. Devondre Campbell in the third quarter walks off the field. He is the replacement for Dre Greenlaw. Big situation there. 49ers end up suspending him 3 games. What would you do with Devondre Campbell? Would you cut him, suspending him 3 games rest of the season? Is that enough? Like, how do you feel about that? If you're another guy in the locker room, what would you want to see the 49ers do?
Yeah. I He'd be gone. I mean, if you just quit on your team, you're done. I don't know if that. I don't know if there's contract implications there. So potentially, if they suspend him with no pay and then cut him after the regular season, maybe they can get like a break on some money there. I don't know if that's like a thing. Just like suspend him through the regular season. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, for someone
basically,
in
yeah, he'd be
their ninth year in their league, unless
yeah
there's
he'd be
contract
done.
I think he's done.
Yeah, no, like there's no reason to be quitting on your team. I get you're not playing, but it's a close divisional game and a game that means a lot towards making the playoffs. This was a one score game for the entirety of the game. I
Yeah,
mean,
this is
it was a close game the whole way. It was gross. It was ugly. Purdy, obviously fair weather quarterback, but no, that's unacceptable.
um yeah, I mean, this game is the entire season right here. You don't want to play right now, like take the rest of the season off. You don't want to play in those games either.
Yeah,
There's a lot of talk about paying Brock Purdy, just no matter what channel you flip on, whoever's talking. I don't really get it because he's not due money this year. I don't see him paying him this offseason. Like, why is everyone talking about it so much? Like, there's so much money being tossed around to some of these veteran players right now. There's no way Purdy gets paid this offseason. What do you think?
yeah, it's obviously not in their interest to pay him. think people are worried about a situation where he could be potentially hold it. You could have a holdout situation. Um,
I don't see Mr. Irrelevant holding out.
but he's paid so little. I mean, I think if it came to a holdout situation, I think you just see like a franchise tag and then play on it. But uh, yeah, it's. I mean, he's paid what, like $700,000 a year or something crazy. Like
I think it's a little more than that.
it's
I want to say like eight
maybe a
or
little
nine. It's under
800.
a
Yeah,
million. It's
but
under a million.
still, like
Plus
I,
California taxes. Oh
it's
man, dude.
this is the
Purdy
same thing
Purdy's
we've
making
seen. Not yeah, he's doing well off the
I've
field,
seen him
which
on some
obviously
commercials. I'm sure he's doing
yeah,
fine,
good for
but yeah,
him. But like still, like you want to get paid. Like at the end of the day, I know you're quarterback and you're protected by the rules in the league, but it's football. You're one play away at any time. Like it's just kind of the nature of the game. So no, I've seen multiple other players hold out in situations that are even less than. I mean, this is a quarterback. Purdy. I mean, no matter what you think of him, he's a $40
Super
million
Bowl.
quarterback. He's a
Oh,
$40 million.
if I'm here, if I'm the agent of Brock Purdy, I'm saying, I'm putting this on the table. I'm saying Tua got paid 53. Let's start
Yeah,
there. Let's start
yeah.
there.
No, I'm
And
saying at minimum he should be getting 40 plus million.
yeah, yeah,
Realistically, he
it's an
probably will end
interesting
up with more.
conversation. This is why everyone's talking about it. I just don't think it's going to happen this year. I think we're going to have this conversation for the next year and a half until he does get paid.
Now, yeah. Now I don't know. Maybe if he's savvy, like maybe you could pull something like a 2-year deal, play on 25 mil a year, so you can keep your roster a little bit, keep the guys around you. Essentially, that's like your 50, but you bump up when you get it. But I just don't see I don't see them taking anything like that because he knows he can get more on the market. Like if he were able to hit the market, I mean,
As a seventh round
somebody's going to
last
pay
pick
him.
in the draft, I think I don't know how long this run is going to be. I don't know when my career is over. I'm taking as much money as I could possibly get right now. I don't think he's settling for 25.
Well, no, I'm saying on like a 2-year deal as like a
Yeah,
bridge.
still,
It'd
I don't.
essentially be like a workaround franchise tag. But I really think I think you'd either see franchise tag or extension. People, I doubt you see extension just because people talked about with Jamar Chase this year and it still never really happened. Like I don't think a team wants to open that can of worms of like giving the extension like that early
Yeah.
or the new contract. I mean, not the extension. Extensions happen, but anyway.
All right, Bills defeat the Lions 48-42. The Lions may have peaked too early, and it's just unfortunate. You said it earlier. The injuries are starting to pile up, especially on the defensive side for Detroit. They lose the game. They lose David Montgomery. This is one of those scenarios. Go look at the Lions' defensive depth chart. I counted 15 players on IR or out. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson earlier in the year, but now it's just absolutely everywhere. The Lions are down to one style of play to winning, and that's piling up a ton of points because they can't stop anyone at the moment. What did you see out of this game? I really thought the Lions were going to win this game. I didn't see the Bills putting up another 40 something
Yeah.
points on the road. Shocked me here.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about the Montgomery injury. Obviously, that sucks. He's played great this year,
I'm concerned
but
about it.
I think they have Gibbs is going to be fine. Like he's probably going to get a little bit more work. He's, in my opinion, the better back, and then
I
they'll
think he's the
just
better
bring
back,
in
but I don't know how. I mean, Gibbs is smaller, more agile. I don't know if an extra 6 or 8 carries a game is going to be super beneficial for him. Maybe if it's more out of like the catching work.
maybe. I mean, they're still going to use 2 running backs though.
Yeah.
They've got their other backup, number 43 or whatever. He comes in. I mean, I'm more worried about the defense. But bottom line, obviously losing Montgomery sucks, but I'm less worried about that than what's going on with the defense because you can't take that many injuries and not have a dip, especially when it's, your best player. Hutchinson was a while ago. You try and slap some band-aids on it and you just keep losing your best players. Lee McNeil has been a great defensive lineman for them. Like their whole thing this year started essentially with them completely shutting down the run. Their run defense the first few weeks was probably the best in the NFL because they were just winning up front. And once you win up front and you get in third and long, then Aiden Hutchinson becomes a terror, and that takes a lot of pressure off your DBs. Well, now your whole D line is hurt, so you can't really stop the run like you wanted, and you can't really limit how long the quarterback has the ball. And so now your DBs are going to suffer. Oh, yeah, and your DBs are all like third stringers now, too. Like, they just gave up 48 points. I get it's probably to the best offense in the NFL right now, maybe besides their own, but you cannot take this many injuries and not have some issues. And I think this is absolutely still a playoff team, like playoff caliber team, even with the roster they have now. But when you're talking about having to beat the Eagles, having to beat the Vikings, I am concerned for Detroit.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move over to Josh Allen. Before this game, he was minus 400 to win MVP. I said it last week. I was like, those odds are pretty good. Actually, not a bad idea to take him now. Well, after this week, they jumped to minus 900, all but securing his MVP title on the year. Josh Allen is doing ridiculous things. This game, he went 23 of 34, 362 yards, 2 touchdowns, another 2 rush touchdowns. Over the last 3 weeks, he has 7 touchdowns, 6 rush touchdowns, no interceptions, 121 fantasy points. He's averaging 40 fantasy points over the last 3 weeks. If he's on your team, I mean, you probably went 3-0 the past 3 weeks in fantasy. You're absolutely loving it right now. Obviously, Kansas City holds the number 1 seed in the AFC. Any chance Bills can get there, or just very unlikely? I mean, Patrick Mahomes did get hurt. They drop a couple.
If
It's
if
very
Mahomes
unlikely.
is if Mahomes is out, I think that's the only way. Like Kansas City's like
They
just
hold the tiebreaker. Yeah.
they're immune to anything. But like, how crazy is it? Like this MVP race, like it was definitely leading Josh Allen, but then Lamar Jackson goes out there, throws for almost 300 yards, 5 touchdowns, runs for another 65 yards, and it's just over. Like he's just out of it. Like
Yeah.
doesn't even
Well,
have a
I mean,
chance after that kind of performance.
did you know Josh Allen has the second most rush touchdowns this year
Yeah, uh,
behind Derrick Henry?
yeah.
I mean, he is a effective running back plus one of the most athletic, gifted quarterbacks we've ever seen. It's wild. Like when we say he's Superman, like I'm surprised he doesn't run onto the field like with the cape and then like take it off as he goes into the game.
I think Cam Newton did that one time. But
All right, Eagles defeat the Steelers 27-13. This game was close, closer than the score indicated. Turning point was really with a Najee Harris fumble. I don't get Nick Sirianni. Despite this team playing absolutely fantastic and being on a heater, he finds a way to negatively affect the media attention. He just does this all the time. I feel like he's just like a little kid and he got this job and like just forgot to take him out of this job, and a couple of years later he's still there. Um I The Eagles are really good, but with Nick Sirianni and all this negative attention he's gotten in the media over the past year or two, like let's say the Eagles get into the play. I mean, they're going to be in the playoffs. Let's say they lose in the first round. Is Nick Sirianni gone?
you've been on this like Sirianni vendetta for like a very long time, and I've never really understood it. All he's done this year is win. Uh, he basically helped deflect this whole AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts thing, and they flip it around, turn it into like, no, we're good. Come out in a big interstate game and show out. Like those two look good. Jalen Hurts had one of his better passing games in a
No, yeah,
while.
I like Jalen Hurts' comments after the game where he just looked at the media. He's like, "Is that what you guys wanted to see? Is that like?"
Yeah, like
No, I'm not. I have no problems with the team. I just have problems with Nick Sirianni. It's like you go to the Super Bowl with Garoppolo and you lose, and you're like, "All right, we got to the Super Bowl," but you get rid of Garoppolo, and you bring in someone else like who's better. I don't see. I really don't see Nick Sirianni winning a Super Bowl with that type of temperament, the things he's doing on the sideline. It really feels to me like they're winning despite him. I don't if they were to lose in the first, second, even the NFC Championship game, I would get rid of Nick Sirianni. Again, I'm not in the facility. I don't know what's actually going on there.
the NFC is entirely too tough. If you now obviously with the Lions taking their injuries and stuff, but you have the Lions and Vikings both in your conference. Like it's not like they're going to lose to like the Giants or the Cowboys in the playoffs, and the fans are going to be like, "How could you be losing to them in the playoffs?" Like they're going to be playing good teams in the playoffs for the most part. Like the Packers, legit. Like the teams they're going to be playing in the playoffs are going to be good. I'm expecting the Eagles to have a first round bye. Um, well, no, because they're 17. Either way, I'm expecting the Eagles to be playing whoever sneaks into the playoffs at the end, beating them, and then playing probably like a Packers team at home or something like that in the second round. Like, so that would be divisional championship. Like, if you lose to the Packers in a close game, like, yeah, you're going to catch some heat. But like at the end of the day, like, I don't know, especially if they make the conference championship, like, I find it hard to believe he'd be gone.
Yeah, I can't deal with the sideline antics, the media. For me, the head coach is more about
It's
it's more
it is
about
Philly though. Like it's different in Philly. Like I don't know what kind of temperament you want in Philly. Like they probably love like Jason Kelsey as head coach, but still like that. If Jason Kelsey's head coach, it's going to be some over the top stuff too. Like
I
it's
don't know. You also have to look
like
at the organization. Philly is the type of organization that will move on from a head coach very quickly
yeah,
before they're ready to. It's not the Pittsburgh Steelers where they're going to stick it out for X number of years and just figure it out. Like if something happens, the Eagles will get rid of a coach and bring someone in. They're an organization that will get top dog candidates no matter what. But yeah, the Eagles actual football on the field, I have no problems with, and they're playing great, and they are, like you said, even possibly looking at that one seed in the NFC. All right, Cowboys defeat the Panthers 30-14. First time Panthers were favored in 2 years. I was skeptical, but I also definitely wasn't gonna put my money on Dallas. Cooper Rush is not a bad backup quarterback. This year he's 10 touchdowns, 3 picks, 84 passer rating. That kind of is what he is for his entire career. I looked it up. 18 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 84 passer rating. That's what he is. Like, really the perfect backup. He comes in there when your quarterback is out and he can win 50% of the games. He's on a 2 year, $5 million deal. I mean, when I look at what he's being paid versus like what Dak's being paid, and I compare the stats, like there's no question Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Cooper Rush. But when you compare the money that they're being paid, like it's just not even close. Like I'd rather have Cooper Rush out there versus Dak. What about you? Like there's not enough of a drop off
like
from
no,
Coop.
like if Dak's on the roster still, like you're still screwed. Like yeah, the Dak contract's really bad, but Cooper Rush is not a good quarterback.
No, but
He's
I'm saying
a
would
decent backup
you
quarterback.
yeah, no, absolutely. But would you rather start your team with Cooper Rush on his $2.5 million a year or Dak Prescott on 60?
I mean, I don't want that Dak contract at all, but so I might like roll with, but I'm not going to start Rush as quarterback either. Like if I have Rush on a $2.5 million contract as my quarterback, I'll just go get a better quarterback. Like there are multiple better quarterbacks than him.
We
Does that
know
make
that.
sense?
I'm just saying in a whole, you got two quarterbacks. You got Dak on 60, you got Cooper on 2.5. Who are you picking?
If I have to win a game, I'm going Dak. But if I can build the rest of my team, including getting another quarterback, then I'm just going to do that. Yes,
Right. Yeah. No, I
and
mean,
take Rush.
I think Dak's a better quarterback, but when you compare the money, I just don't think there's a
But
big
yeah,
enough
it's
drop
it's a
off in.
horrible it's a horrible contract with Dak. Yes, I agree.
All right. What are the odds that the fat man stays in Dallas?
I think it's funny. Like the whole time I thought he would be gone this year. I was saying that from like kind of early on, but now as we're getting there, I feel like he's going to get forgiveness because of the injury and the whole situation.
Are we, I was thinking about this. Are we sure that Mike McCarthy is not? I'm seeing Aaron Rodgers now with the Jets and everything he did, and I'm seeing Mike McCarthy with the Cowboys and Jerry Jones and how they're running it. Are we sure that these Aaron Rodgers and the Cowboys combined are not holding Mike McCarthy back?
I mean,
People people
it may be very possible.
people
At
say
least
Mike
when he
McCarthy's not a great coach, but like, what if he without Aaron and without the Cowboys and won like 3 or 4 Super Bowls and like Aaron
I
is the
think
reason that he's being held back, or Jerry Jones and the
I do think
Cowboys.
he is. Yeah,
Yeah,
I do think he is a very good coach. In fairness to him, to fight this a little bit, Aaron Rodgers was a lot better player when he played for McCarthy. He was not nearly as washed. But yeah, some of the shenanigans. No, I do agree. I think he's had to deal with some stuff. And I do think he is a pretty good coach that probably will land somewhere if he does get booted from Dallas.
yeah. I mean, I think he stays. I think he's doing a good enough job. The team's fighting 6-8 with some injuries. I think their actual roster is just not good enough. And that's what needs to be changed in the offseason. Let's move to the Texans defeating the Dolphins 20-12. I got to tell you, both of these teams feel very underwhelming. The Texans feel like they're going to be outed in the first round. I don't know why. It just feels like they don't have it together. And the Dolphins feel like they kind of just need to blow the operation up. I don't really like the Dolphins just I don't know what it is with them. Tyreek Hill, he's got 5 kids this year. He's got 5 touchdowns this year. That's wild to me. Mike McDaniel, what do you think his overall record is in the NFL as a head coach?
He's got to be close to 500.
Exactly. 26-22, close to 500, third year in the league or third year as a head coach. But that's with the Jets being down. That's with the Patriots being down. 500 as a head coach for the Dolphins with those two teams being terrible. Not great. And then we got Tua, 45 degrees or below. He's 0-7. 45 degrees or above. He's 36-16. So Tyreek Hill is not what he used to be. Mike McDaniel, he like is Miami. Like the media loves him, but his actual record's like not spectacular. And then Tua, we paid him way too much, and he's just an iffy quarterback. I'm not sure what it's going to take for the Dolphins to be good. I'm not even sure if they want to be good, to be honest. Like, you're in Miami, you have celebrities, you have money. I don't know if Miami really wants to win a Super Bowl or if they just want to be relevant.
I think the Miami fans enjoyed being fun
I
last
think I
year.
think relevance is much more important to the Dolphins than is like winning a Super Bowl. Like, what is going to keep
Yeah,
us in that 7-12 win range?
yeah.
And
I see that with the Canes a little bit too, honestly. Like it does kind of end up being that way, unfortunately. Miami Hurricanes
oh, I
in
was thinking
college.
like,
Yeah,
okay,
no,
I was
it's
like, are we talking
like
hockey? Like, what?
like it's like obviously Canes fans want to win a national championship as bad as anything because it's been so long, but like at this point it's been so long, just having some relevance is kind of nice too. Like the Dolphins haven't won anything in my lifetime. And just showing some excitement, just a little taste, it's enough to get those fans going a bit. But I do think that they need to shoot for a little bit higher. Um, they're kind of at the end of their window.
I
They
don't.
now have
I
Tua.
honestly don't know what
They've
like.
blown
It
past that
seemed.
window.
It seems like Miami just running it back again with like Tyreek and Tua and Achan. Like it's gonna kind of run into the same thing they're running into, where it's like just a
Well,
500
now that
foot.
you're paying Tua, like now your window's almost kind of up. So you
And
kind
but
of have to hit
and the
it
thing
now.
is, like now you got Drake May and the Patriots are probably on the way up. The Bills are probably going to be good for the next foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And the Jets aren't going to be any worse than they were this year. I mean, it's just, like if the Dolphins
Part
were
of
going to do well, like the past 2 years was probably where they were
the,
going to do it. And
part of
it's
the problem, like a lot of what we've seen this year, like people forget, like oh, like you got Tua, you got Waddle, like Tyreek, like oh man, they were slinging it everywhere, like dudes are running free. No, the reason their offense was so insane last year was because of the run game. Like obviously they were able to sling it, but the run game, like Mostert had like 20 plus rushing touchdowns. Achan was like 8 yards a carry for like 8 plus yards a carry for like almost the whole year. Like their run game was insane, but now to pay Tua, they've let guys like Robert Hunt walk, and he was awesome for them. And now he's with the Panthers. He's been unbelievable for the Panthers in their run game. I mean, Chuba's been great this year, and previously he was kind of a 3 yards per carry kind of guy. Like they're letting some of these offensive linemen walk. Now I know they've had injuries as well, but they are not able to do some of the things they want to do, some of the play action things, because they don't have the threat of the run this year. Everything with their run is kind of a lot of smoke and mirror stuff. When last year they were able to just literally run a stretch play and still chunk teams.
I don't know. Watching Miami, it's just a bunch of like I don't know. There's no substance. It's just like all screen passes, like no run
Yeah,
game. Like honestly, we need to change the name of our podcast to the Miami podcast. Just like,
yeah. Dude, the crate, like looking at to his air yards, like and
yeah,
going down and like yards per attempt is crazy. How he's gone from one of the highest to literally last in the NFL in like 2 years, like completely flipped,
yeah.
and how that offense is working.
All right, let's get to the last one here. Broncos defeat the Colts 31-13. Another game where the score definitely does not indicate how this game went down. I mean, I thought the Colts were dominating this game, about to go up 2 scores in the third quarter when Jonathan Taylor dropped the ball while crossing the goal line. This happens way too often. I mean, multiple times a year. This isn't like the first time this year this has happened. From that point forward, the Colts went scoreless and the Broncos took over. Colts needed this one too. They dropped to 6-8, 10% chance at the playoffs. Really bad look for the Colts. Let's talk about Anthony Richardson for a second. 17 of 38, 172, no touchdowns, 2 picks. On the year, 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 66 passer rating. How much longer can they keep going with AR? I mean, next year, like
I think they
I,
have to. Like you run out the
the
rookie
numbers
contract.
are so bad. Some of the picks he has are really bad. He's a physical specimen, but when it comes to actually throwing the ball and completing it, I'm not even sure. He's not even a good.
Yeah, like
It's bad. Like
we're at the point with AR where it's like if you complete half of your passes and don't turn it over, that's a success, and that is a very very low bar. And he
it's
is
starting to
like,
get to the point where like I'm starting to question Shane Steichen. Like I don't really know how good of a coach he is anymore. He says his record is 15-16. I don't know if it's Anthony Richardson. I don't know if it's the coach. I don't know if it's the scheming. Like I feel like they
I'm
have good pieces. I feel like the Colts are always right there. And like, is this
I
one of those teams where you're
I'm
like, if
definitely
you're like, this is a quarterback away from being 10, 11 wins?
I'm a Steichen guy. I think a lot of it just falls on Anthony Richardson, to be honest with you. Like, I think he's just a not good player that was drafted well ahead of where he probably should have gone. I've talked about it many, many times on this podcast. If I ever get any opportunities in any NFL front offices, we
Don't
will
draft the
not
Gators.
ever be drafting Florida Gators players ever, ever, ever. There is so much data on their bust rates. And for whatever reason, if you go to that university, you will probably fizzle out in the NFL and not produce at the rate you're supposed to. That's just what it is. Um, yes, their offensive line is decent. They have a very good running back. I've got questions about that wide receiver room. Like, I do think he could use a little help with weapons. Down's been dinged up a lot, but no, I just don't think Richardson's that good. I think some of it falls on Steichen a little bit if you're like saying like he should be developing him, but I think in the sense of him just running the offense properly, like dude can't throw the ball accurately. That's not really on the coach.
Yeah. I think they need to get that quarterback situation fixed this off season. I don't think the draft's where it's going to get fixed either.
No, I mean they probably have to roll with him again next year, and you just hope that there's some form of development. I mean, I don't know if we'll see that or not, but I think you invested a first round top what 6, 8 pick on him. Like you you just keep trying to develop him until it doesn't work, and you run out of rookie contract years.
Yeah, I mean they needed a win really bad here, and Bo Nix played about as bad as he could have. The Broncos gave him every chance to win this game,
Yeah.
and they couldn't do it. All
Mhm.
right, let's get into our power rankings. Last week we did the not top 10. We are back into our top 10. We will start with 10. Got the Pittsburgh Steelers 10-4, clinched playoff spot. They're not the same team without Pickens. They're a tough out. They can beat anyone, just not fully there. At 9, we got the Rams 8-6. They are getting healthy at the right time. They got a solid run game, and I like how they are playing. At 8, we got the Bucks 8-6. Just dropped 40 points on the Chargers. Baker, Evans look good, hosting a playoff game most likely if they can win that division. At 7, we got the Ravens 9-5. Still a bad defense. Still don't like it. Can Henry keep going late on in the season in the playoffs? He's a little old. He's been a slow the past few weeks. At 6, we got the Lions 12-2. Number one offense. This team just dropped from, I don't know what they were before, 2 or 3 in our power rankings to 6, mostly because of the pieces they've lost on the defense. David Montgomery, he's out. At 5, we got the Packers, 10-4. They keep winning. They're a power run team now with Josh Jacobs. They lead the NFL in picks. At 4, we got the Vikings, 12-2. They are fighting for a number 1 seed. Darnold is having a year. Addison, Hawkinson, Jefferson combo. It's really good. At 3, we got Buffalo, 11-3. Josh Allen is your MVP. Just outscored the Lions in Detroit. Buffalo looks good. At 2, we got 12-2. They have the number 1 defense in the league. They can win anyway, and I still hate the coach. I will let that be known weekly. At 1, we got Kansas City, 13-1. Mahomes just got injured, still won. Carson Wentz is up. They're going to be here in this number 1 spot until they lose multiple games in a row, which is probably not going to happen. Probably going to be there next year too. All right. Let's get into some talking points here. Baker Mayfield, he is killing it in Tampa on that contract. He is on a 3-year, $100 million contract. That's $33 million a year. Great for the team, great for Baker. What do you think are the top 3 contracts in the NFL? I mean, if you really did some research, I'm sure you can find some great ones here, but what do you think are the top 3 contracts in the NFL at this moment?
I got into it pretty deep, and I came out with a pretty clear top 2, and
I feel
really
like there's
didn't.
one that's definitely on everyone's list. What do you got here?
I got into it. There's 2 that are pretty obvious to me that are top 2, and really I didn't need to go very deep for those. It's Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
Oh,
Those are actually the 2 best contracts.
what
Best I could.
what are they at? I don't
Mahomes
have.
is getting 40. Mahomes is at 45 a year for 10 years, and Josh Allen's 43 a year for 6 years. That is
Wow,
significantly
that is a
less than what other quarterbacks are being paid. That are quarterbacks that just are not as good as those guys.
no. Those are steals when I think about it. I didn't look super hard at
Yeah,
the
it's.
quarterback
I was looking
prices.
deep. I was looking deep, trying to find like, oh, who's somebody that's on for like 5 million a year. No, like literally, those are the 2 best players in the NFL
Yeah.
right now, basically, and they're getting paid at a discount to what some of their counterparts are getting paid. That right there, I mean, those are the 2 best contracts.
Yep. No doubt about it. I didn't include quarterbacks in here, but I was looking at them. But yeah, what's your third on that list?
I was bouncing around at this. I found a few, but I actually really like Myles Garrett's contract as well. Another top tier player. He's getting 25 a year for 5 years. That's less than multiple other pass rushers. And I mean, he is arguably the best pass rusher in the NFL. If I'm limited to non rookie contracts, his is pretty good
Yep. Yeah. Oh
for
yeah. I'll throw that kicker
potentially
in there. We said
for
no.
potentially being one of the best defensive players in the league. I
All right.
also had a honorable mention. I wanted to shout out Cortland Sutton's on a 15 a year for 4 years. As far as wide receivers go, that is a steal, and he's been playing some fantastic ball for the Broncos this year.
Okay. All right. Number 1 for me. I got Saquon, 3-year, $37 million, $12 million a year for what he's doing. I mean, they might even have to redo that contract after this year and ask for a little more because he is the center point of that franchise right now. Jawan Jennings, 2-year, $15 million, 7.5 a year. He is a top 10 wide receiver on Pro Football Focus. I don't know what his fantasy is. He's top 20 in fantasy, but 7.5 a year for Jawan Jennings. Watch that guy play. I mean, that's a steal. And then last one here, sneaky one. Jonnu Smith, he's on a 2-year, $8 million down in Miami, $4 million a year. This dude right now has 70 catches and 6 touchdowns on the year. He's averaging 5 catches a game and has missed no games this year. For $4 million, Jonnu Smith. That is my number 3.
I almost included Johnny. That's a great shout.
Yeah. All right. Bill Belichick, new coach of UNC at Chapel Hill. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I think he was quite bored. The college game is transitioning a little bit into more of a pro style, um, I don't know, groundwork. You have essentially front offices now running college programs. You have talent acquisition offices. You can kind of go get players you want by just paying for them, and you can stack talent. I think it has become a little bit more appealing to him. He's, not having may not have to travel the entire country going to see 16 and 17-year-olds. He can just kind of stack talent his way. I think a lot of this is just to benefit his son. I think setting up the head coach in waiting is quite nice.
I
I think
believe
he
that's the I
I
believe
think
that's
he's
what it is.
probably liable to jump to the NFL if coaching is what he wants to do. I would not be surprised if he jumps to the NFL in
So
the
that's
near
my next
future.
question. Do you think Belichick will coach in the NFL again?
Yeah, I do. I didn't know if he was just full done. The fact that he's going back to college to do this makes me kind of think that, yeah, we probably will see him back in the NFL.
I don't think he is. Let's say he does a year or two at UNC. He's 72 years old right now. I don't care how good of a coach you are. If I'm an owner in the NFL, I don't really want to sign a 74-year-old coach to. I mean, if I want a coach and I want to bring a coach in, I want him there 3 to 5 years at the minimum. Bill's going to be 74, meaning when he's done with his contract, he's going to be 76, 77, 78. That's a ridiculous age to still be coaching. I looked up the oldest coaches in the league right now. Andy Reid, 66. John Harbaugh, 61. And then you got a ton of coaches at 60. The Fat Man, Sean Payton, Todd Bowles, Harbaugh. Either way, 72 is a lot older than 61, 60. And by the time he gets a new contract in the NFL, 74, 75 years old. If I'm an owner, I don't care what kind of success you've had in the past. That is too old to be hiring a coach for me.
That also might be 15 years younger than Smoters, though. So
All right. You sent this to me this week. We bet Commanders -7 versus the Saints. The score was 20-13. There was 15 seconds left. Again, we had Commanders -7. The Saints get the ball down to what, I don't know, like the 1 yard line. And the
yeah,
clock stopped magically for like 4 or 5 seconds. And we all know in the NFL on a first down, the clock does not stop. Because the clock stopped, they were able to get a play in and score a touchdown, correct?
but they were able to spike the ball and
Spike the
stop the
ball.
clock with 2 or 3 seconds left to run one more play, which they then scored a touchdown on.
Yeah. So were we going to win our bet? No, we were at -7. We could have tied it. But it still screwed us and probably a lot of people out of a half there. I don't really have an explanation for it. Go look it up. That clock did stop for like 4 seconds and there was like
Yeah,
2 or 3 seconds left on the clock. So
it would have been close whether or not clock would have run out. I really haven't seen any reports on like anything about it.
nope.
I think the NFL is probably just trying to sweep it under the rug and hope that it doesn't become a huge thing.
The NFL
But
news cycle lasts 1 week. So if they can just last a couple days without that popping
yeah,
up there, good to go. Uh you wanted to bring this up, Travis Hunter. Where do you think he'll go in the draft? Who do you think he'll go to, and how do you think he will be used?
yeah, I think he will be a top 5 pick. It'll be, one of those, the usual teams will be fighting for quarterbacks, but he will be one of probably the first 2 or 3 players taken. I mean, he's your Heisman Trophy winner. He can do it on both sides of the ball. I I think if you're going to draft that kind of player where you're taking him, I think you play him both sides of the ball. If you are looking for strictly a cornerback or strictly a wide receiver, then you should just go do that. If you're looking for a playmaker, if you're going to take a guy in the top 5, I think where you draft him, you're drafting him for the reason of that he's a unicorn, and you should use him as such.
I don't know. I think I'm a little ignorant on the situation. I don't actually know how coaches would feel about it. I did see Eric Bieniemy today on Fox talking about it, and he was saying it would be a serious issue. Eric Bieniemy as an offensive coordinator for him to be splitting his time with the offense and defense. Quarterbacks wouldn't like it. The
Yeah,
coaches wouldn't
for
like
game
it.
planning. Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to be a number one cornerback. He wouldn't be able to be a number one wide receiver. So truthfully, I don't know.
If I had to choose, my preference
I
would
just
be he
can't. I
plays more
mean,
defense.
wherever he does go, he's not making your team worse. That I mean,
Right.
he's just
Yeah.
not. And right now, the Patriots have the third pick, and I don't even care what they would use him for. But if they just took him and said, "We'll figure it out," I don't know what he's gonna do. We'll figure it out. I would be totally okay with it.
That's the thing. Like, if I were to take him on my team, I'd prefer him to probably play more defense, and then we can work him in on some gadget plays on offense or whatever. I've actually seen the Patriots do that with Marcus Jones, so there is
Well, I'm just saying,
precedent
if
for that.
you get Travis Hunter and Christian Gonzalez out there, and then
Yeah. Now, if I'm the Patriots, I might play him more at wide receiver because man, y'all need some help there. But
yeah,
uh, yeah, I think you have flexibility there for
I think
sure.
we need some help at running back. I need an explosive running back. I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting draft. We'll see. All right, let's get into fantasy. It was week 1 of playoffs. I am
Mhm.
having an absolutely miserable fantasy year. In our ESPN league, I put up 151 points and lost this week. That is brutal. In that league, I scored 40 more points than you in the regular season, and I missed the playoffs.
Yeah, my
Meanwhile,
team's terrible.
yeah, your team's terrible. Meanwhile, you received a first round bye. My mind is blown. In my other league, I put up 123 points this week and lost. I mean, it's very frustrating time to be myself during fantasy football. I'm already looking forward to next season. All right, week 15 booms. We could stay on this for an hour just reading off the booms, but
Mhm.
who boomed this week? Give me a couple.
Yeah, that Detroit Buffalo game went crazy. Jared Goff, Josh Allen, Jameer Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all huge games. James Cook had a great game as well. Obviously, when there's 90 total points in a game, it's going to be a big week for fantasy. Lamar Jackson, we talked about or mentioned earlier, but threw for 5 touchdowns, torched the Giants. Big week for him. Mike Evans, huge week, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns. Very, very real chance he could end up hitting 1,000 yards, even though he missed all those games. Truly impressive career there. Devontae Adams from the dead against Jacksonville, just 200 yards, like what out of nowhere. He has blessed somebody in the playoffs that probably didn't deserve it. So, and then yeah, that's all I have actually. I have just a bunch of Detroit and Buffalo
I feel
players.
like Brian Thomas Jr. is not getting enough love this
Yeah.
year as he truly deserves. 32
Hmm.
fantasy points this week, number 7 wide receiver in fantasy. Over the last 3 weeks, 36 targets. That's
Hmm.
like that's Devontae Adams and Green Bay type stuff right there.
Yeah, he was early in the year. He was just getting a lot of deep shots, but it would be like 4 or 5 targets a game. It was like lower volume targets, but he was super efficient. Now he's actually getting targets, and it's scary.
Yeah. He might be a first round fantasy wide receiver type guy next year potentially. All right, I'm gonna read a couple off these. I like reading the defenses. Bengals defense. I don't know how the Bengals defense put up 20 points, but they did.
That game was awful.
Yeah.
Million
Uh,
turnovers.
Falcons defense, 22 points in the unwatchable game. Broncos D, 21 points. Throw James Conner in there, 30 points. Solid week for him. All right, let's go to week 15 bus. There were a lot of busts
Yeah.
this week as well. Fantasy implications. Some people had to have been pretty pissed with some of these results. What do you got on the bus list?
So I'm gonna start with like a short little funny story. In my home league, I'm in the playoffs,
Yep.
and I needed a big week to chase down a guy. His team was very good. He was killing it, and I was very upset with myself because I had a decision to make a wide receiver, and I ended up playing Cooper Cup, and he got zero point zero points.
I think a lot of people felt that
And
pain this week.
and and the guy that I wished I had played instead of him was Darnell Mooney, who also got zero point zero points. So both of those
Yes.
guys make it on the bus list. Yeah, I was screwed regardless. The other stud on my team, Derrick Henry, he is also on the bus list. I thought this was a game where Derrick Henry would be killing it because they were going to be up a bunch, so they were going to just run the ball a ton, and then
Yep.
Lamar just ended up throwing for 5 touchdowns. So
Yep.
tough week for him. Debo Samuel, he has a weekly spot on this list. Do you want to say Kyle Pitts as well, just to have him on there? I
I
mean, he had
didn't.
one.
I
He had
did
one
not put
catch,
Pitts on
but
here. No.
Kyle Pitts had one catch as well. So Debo,
He's
Kyle
also.
Pitts, y'all exist on the bust list. I mean,
We have a
Pitts
couple.
has
I
been
think. I think we need to establish some rules for our podcast. Like rule number one. We don't bet. Rule number one: we fade the Panthers.
yes,
And then rule number two: we can no longer put Kyle Pitts on the bus list because he
yeah,
lives there.
no, like, you have to expect it at this point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Debo, people still have expectations for, and
Right.
especially with some of the drops he had. terrible, bustless. Tyreek Hill, he had 2 catches against the Texans. He still got like 7 or 8 targets. Waddle got hurt in this game. Like, he's supposed to be the guy, and he's just like getting basically outgained by Jonnu Smith and Malik Washington. Not good. Tyreek Hill and bustless. And lastly, Brock Bowers. He only had 3 catches in this game against Atlanta. Obviously, having Desmond Ridder at quarterback seems to be a negative for any pass catchers in an offense. So yeah, tough week for him.
I'm gonna put Jameis on here. He had negative points if for some reason
Yeah.
you started him. Saquon, you're in your first week of playoffs and you expect some big stuff out of Saquon. He puts up 9 points. Definitely, I mean, it's a bust for Saquon. It's just that's tough.
Yeah.
Chargers D -4 points. Uh, yeah, and I think you put the rest of them there at Tua, 3 points, 3 interceptions, and a fumble. People probably started Tua this week. All right, week 16 starts. Who you got?
I'm gonna start in that really gross game, Vegas and Jacksonville. I got a couple guys. Uh, both these defenses are terrible. I do think I am telling you, if Aiden O'Connell does not play, do not start this guy. But if O'Connell is good to go in this game, we are starting Jacoby Myers. I think he will be able to get open against this Jacksonville pass catching unit. He is a start for me. And then on the backside, give me Tank Bigsby in the lineup against Vegas. I think he gets in the end zone this week. The Jacksonville offense has started to show a little bit of life. If they're getting in the red zone, I do like him this week. And then lastly, I'm going to be starting Rico Dowdle. He's been playing awesome lately. They're playing the Buccaneers. I'm expecting some points in this game. I would expect him to get in the end zone at some point in time as well.
I like it. Bucky Irving, he is playing the Cowboys this week. Their run D is not great. Get Bucky Irving in there. Bears offensive players. They've been tough to start on fantasy this year, but they're playing the Lions, and we've been talking about this. The Lions defense is just hurt everywhere. I mean, the Bears offense has not been great, but with how the Lions defenses look, they got to put up some points in this game. Jonathan Taylor versus the Titans. I think after last week, Jonathan Taylor is going to want to have a huge week. Over 100 yards, touchdown. Don't let go of the ball. Let's move over on to the sits. Who are we sitting? Week 16.
We are sitting Quentin Johnston, playing the Broncos. He's going to catch a tough matchup in that game. I don't see a ton of points in this game. This is 2 really solid defenses, and I just don't see this being a good week to have him in the lineup. Next, I'm going to Isaiah Pacheco. They're playing the Texans. The Texans have been a bit of a mess, but their run defense has not been. Pacheco is also still splitting carries with Kareem Hunt. It's kind of a gross backfield, and especially if they don't have Patrick Mahomes, that offense probably won't be doing a ton. And then lastly, Ramondre Stevenson versus Buffalo. They are a 14-point dog in this game. I think you're going to see a lot of Antonio Gibson and not a lot of points scored by the Patriots.
All right. I got Mixon versus the Chiefs. I just see very low scoring game in Arrowhead. Derrick Henry, slower week last week, playing the Steelers. It's going to be a tough spot for the Baltimore Ravens players. Really tough if you got them on your fantasy roster in the playoffs here. Last one is Seattle pass catchers. If Sam Howell is starting, I don't like that against the Vikings. Their defense has been solid. High blitz rate. I just don't think the Seattle pass catchers will do well with Sam Howell in there. Gino may play, but we'll keep an eye on that. All right, gambling lines. Let's get into it. A little bit of a different schedule this week. Got some Saturday games, but here we go. On Thursday, we got Broncos at Chargers. Chargers favored by 2.5. On Saturday, 1 p.m., Texans at Chiefs. Chiefs favored by 2.5. 4:30. Steelers at Ravens. Ravens favored by 6. Sunday, 1 p.m. slate. We get Browns at Bengals. Bengals favored by 7.5. Lions at Bears. Bears getting 6.5. Eagles at Commanders. Commanders getting 3.5. Rams at Jets. Jets getting 3.5. Cardinals at Panthers. Panthers getting 4.5. Giants at Falcons. Falcons -9. Titans at Colts. Colts -3.5. 4 p.m. slate. We get Vikings at Seahawks. Seahawks +3.5. Patriots at Bills. Bills -14. 49ers at Dolphins. Dolphins -1. Jaguars at Raiders. Raiders -1. Late night, we get Bucks at Cowboys. Cowboys +4. Monday, we get Saints at Packers. Packers favored by 13.5. What is your must-win game of the week?
I think it's that Thursday night game. I think the Chargers need to win that game. Home division game against a team they're actively competing for a playoff spot. I think the Chargers need that win.
I like it. I got the Rams traveling cross country at the Jets. Jets suck. Rams need a win, but it's not going to be an easy win getting that at the Jets. All right, last week as a podcast, if you faded us, you did well. We did absolutely terrible. I went 0-3. Andrew went 1-2. Other than my bet that I hit on Monday night, which I didn't include in the podcast, that was a pretty bleak week for us. So we got to come back strong here. What are your 3 bets of the week?
I am tailing your must-win game. I am taking the Rams -3 at the Jets. The Jets' performance last week was a fluke that will not be repeated, and the Rams just had a scrappy game in some bad weather. They got some extra rest. I like them to clean up in this game. Next, bit of a surprise because we've been ragging on their injuries, but I am taking the Lions -6.5 at Chicago. Chicago has started very slow, and there's not really a team I'd rather be behind than the Lions. The Lions have shown a willingness to run the ball. I think if they can get up early, this will be a great situation for them to kind of hold the ball and force Chicago to be pretty one-dimensional, which will help them. And then lastly, I'm taking the Bengals -7.5 playing Cleveland. It sounds like DTR is probably be starting. He is very terrible at quarterback. I know Jameis has been quite bad too, but he is even worse. The only concern here would be Cleveland being able to run the ball well enough on that Cincinnati defense that they play keep away, but I'm still expecting Cincinnati to score at least 24 points, and I just don't see Cleveland scoring much more than like 10, 13 points. So I'm taking Cincinnati.
I think the Bengals are going to put up 42 points at home this
Yeah.
week. So not a bad. I'm going to tail your game of the week, must win. I will take Chargers on Thursday -2.5. I think it's a good spot for them. I will go Colts at home -3.5. I think they absolutely destroy the Titans. They really need a win. They still got a chance of getting in. I think they want to recover after last week. And I will take the Eagles -3.5 at the Commanders. I'm expecting Saquon to have a huge game. He had a slow game last week. Commanders don't defend the run well. Eagles played Commanders earlier this year. They won by 6, 3.5 points. Eagles are hot. I will take that. Those are our bets of the week. I'll lock them in. Second week of fantasy playoffs. Big stuff happening here. No buys. A lot of games. Games Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. A lot of football. Any last words, Andrew?
Travis Hunter, the Panthers.
Travis Hunter to the Panthers. I do not see that happening, but
Why not? We're like a pick number 4 right now.
Are you? No. It goes, I think Raiders
Yeah, we're
1,
4,
Giants
right?
2,
Raiders,
Patriots
Giants, Patriots,
3,
Panthers.
Jaguars 4? No?
Panthers.
Okay.
Jags beat the Titans like last week. It's Panthers or head Jags.
All right.
On the pick.
Well, we appreciate y'all listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at screenplay_podcast. New episodes every Wednesday, 8 a.m., wherever you listen to podcasts, and we will see y'all next week.